You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is October 8, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. This is kind of a special show today. No panel of Knuckleheads other than my guest, Alexander Vasquez. So he is our honorary. Yeah, you're our Knucklehead of the day today for our panel. So we're going to talk with Alexander Vasquez and find out a little bit about his radio show here at Public Access. He's been doing that for 20 years. But before we get into that, we always start with our, and by the way, my name's Jason McPhee. I'll be your host. But before we get into talking about our interview with Alex and some of the topics that we're going to have later in the show, which is going to include a bunch of stuff happening in San Francisco, a recall, speeding cameras, and kind of a crazy interview with possibly our next governor here, Katie Porter. But before we get into any of that, we always start with a Liberty quote of the day. And this time it is going to be, that is Ben Carson. He was the HUD secretary under President Trump in his first term. And he is a neurosurgeon, sort of an accomplished guy. He's, I guess, pioneered some different procedures. He was also a Presidential Medal of Freedom winner. And he had this quote, and I just think it's a wonderful quote. He said, "You cannot be the land of the free if you are not willing to be if you are not willing to be the home of the brave." And I mean, that says almost everything about our politics today. I mean, so many people are sort of cringing and not wanting to say what it is they're really thinking because they're worried about getting canceled and violence and all this other stuff. And I just think this is sort of a really wonderful quote about what it means if we're going to be able to maintain our liberty in this country. And I also think, too, it maybe plays a little bit into our guest today, who has his own radio show, and he's not afraid of talking about his opinions either. Alexander, what do you think about this quote?
This is an excellent quote. And he's absolutely right, because you have to be brave. You have to be courageous. You got to believe in what you're saying. And you also have to call out what's out there. I mean, it's just not enough to say, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't know where this is going. You have to have a really strong conviction in saying, this is not working. Here's the reason why. And it could be a matter of the system's not working. The idea was bad. The people who are leading it, they may just suck. Who knows? It could be a bunch of things. But you got to be brave to say it. You got to be brave to put it out there and say, no, this is not working.
Yeah. And I think especially if you're not a conservative, if you're not a liberal in California, this is, there's no other way. I mean, either you hide your opinions or you got to stand out and be brave, one or the other. But it's not the most friendly place, I guess you'd say, to people who aren't sort of the left.
I mean, if there was a book out there saying brave liberals of our time or in the past, or even worse, if there were brave liberals from California, it would be in a comic book structure, because I don't know of any Democrats and far left people, and just liberals themselves, or progressives now, that they show any bravery. And one of the bravest things you can do as a person with character is to admit you're wrong, and that we don't have enough. Maybe late. I think we talked earlier that we may see a clip of real bravery by the name of Katie Porter.
Well, I'm not sure I describe that as bravery, but we'll see.
That's not bravery. That's a breakdown,
Yeah.
But he's right. He's absolutely right. I wish there was more of him, to tell you the truth. We need more of him. And I'm kind of disappointed in the Trump administration where they don't use him. And because sometimes Trump, his idea of bravery is just talking a lot. And I get disappointed with him sometimes, but he's from New York. What the hell? And we're always disappointing people from New York, and we don't have the kind of people with character who have been a neurosurgeon who have saved lives, and they know how precious life is, but they also know that once you're out here, that's just as precious too, and you got to honor it. You have to take care of it. You have to preserve it, and only bravery does that.
Well, it looks like, speaking of bravery, our Screaming Eagle of Freedom has just flown into the studio, so I'm going to drop him in right now. And maybe we can see what Tim Everett thinks about this quote. You cannot be the land of the free if you're not willing to be the home of the brave.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole introduction thing, but I don't know how brave I am just coming on the podcast. I guess that is some level of courage, but cannot be the land of the free if you're not willing also to be home to the brave. The brave, yeah, well, sure, I don't think, yeah, because freedom is a tough one. It's a tough one to maintain. You certainly have to be brave to stand up against the pressures to conform and to become part of the coherent whole that we call, the opposite of individualism, and which is collectivism. So, you have to fight collectivism at every turn. It seems like the battle's never over. So, yeah, if you're not going to be brave and go into battle for that stuff, I think that's a true quote. You're not going to be free.
No,
if you're not going to be brave, you're not going to be free.
Right.
Well, speaking of brave, our guest here is the host of his own radio show. And so I'm going to bring that up real quick so people can see what it is. It's called Capital City Radio with Alexander Vasquez, who is the host of that show. And of course, that's our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you. I've never seen that. This is the first time I've seen that piece right there.
He's always on the other end of the microphone. He never.
I don't do the technical stuff. James does that. He's a genius. James is a genius. I love.
Well, yeah, and this is a good-looking page, but you've been doing this for like 20 years, and it's here in the Sacramento area. So you want to tell us a little bit about the show and what it is you do with it on the show?
Well, it's mostly just commentary, and I talk about my points of view from the MAGA perspective. I'm part of the MAGA movement and been conservative, raised a Democrat, where it was a real Democrat household. I mean, we were very activist, especially in the Hispanic community, Cesar Chavez era, and Si Puede, Viva la Raza, and all this other stuff. And but we always had, to me, the real sign of a Democratic family always had the three holy trinities on the wall, black velvet painting from Tijuana with the eyes move, of Jesus Christ, the Pope, and John F. Kennedy. That's when.
Don't tell me now you guys have replaced Kennedy with Trump.
No, not me. I still have the black velvet paintings from Tijuana. There's some I have in my house, and so I've kept that tradition going on. But it was a very activist family, activist household, and I guess I got my bones from the Democratic Party. And then during the 80s, when I went to Los Angeles, I was a beach bum. I was hanging out at Venice Beach, Santa Monica, and that was during the 80s. I mean, from 80 to 90. And now that I've been pretty much on the Republican side, or just dealing with, I'm a very conservative person, but I do have a huge libertarian streak in me. And that's always, in fact, in the Republican Party, there's several volunteer groups that are libertarian / Republican and all that. And I used to go to their meetings, and we got along just great. In fact, we met in front of the Libertarian booth at the California State Fair, and that's how I kind of got a vibe that you do have kind of a liberty streak going through. You're not quite the average
MAGA person, I guess.
Yeah. The funny thing about it is that James, who's my boss, okay, and here at Access Sacramento, he's part of the Libertarian Party, and he asked me to fill out in the booth if I wanted to, and I said sure. So I did a couple days there, and then on the other side, maybe 50 feet, the Republican Party was there, and they saw me in the Libertarian booth. They said, "What the hell are you doing over here?" And I'm having fun. I'm having fun. I'm having a good time. I'm meeting different people and all this other stuff. So I did a couple days with the Republican Central Committee, and I helped out James, and that's what we do. That's what I do.
Okay. Well, you talked about, I guess early sort of MAGA roots before there was a MAGA, I guess. And,
right.
And what is it about, I guess, the making America great again? I guess you talked about John F. Kennedy, and in fact, we even used a quote of his once on the show. I can't. It had something to do with everybody should, try to get involved. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a pretty good quote. Maybe one of these days I'll find it again.
Yeah, like other people might remember. Well, actually, the "Make America Great Again" actually came from Ronald Reagan, and Trump kind of ran on that. He kind of saw where the country was going, and I never paid attention to. In fact, I never paid attention to Reagan either, because I meet Republicans all the time, and they say, "Oh, you were part of the Reagan era." And I go, "Honey, I don't even remember the Reagan era." Like I said, I was living in a Volkswagen van on Venice Beach for almost 10 years, having a good time, drinking too much, too many drugs. I didn't even know how to vote. I wouldn't even know how to use a voting booth if I in those days. So I was out of it, and I didn't get back into politics until my early 30s. And but the MAGA movement was almost a combination. Well, it is a combination of, at the time, it was called the Christian Coalition. And then came after that, the Tea Party. And they kind of combined a little bit, because I have friends in all these organizations. And Trump kind of jumped on that. He saw it. And now we have this MAGA thing. But MAGA itself is not really a political organization. It's more of a philosophy. And there's a lot of people that are involved in it.
It is funny when you say it's more of a philosophy, because I hear people talk about the other side of the spectrum, Antifa, right? And they say, well, it's not really an organization.
No, we don't have any leaders. I mean, there's only one organization in California, and that's called California MAGA. And I met those people, and they're all from Southern California. But what was interesting about it is that when Prop 36 came out, that's when you saw people from different political points of view, different cultures, different genders, different races. And
Alexander, can I jump in real quick? Prop 36, Can you tell everybody which one, what that was about?
Yeah, Prop 36 was the law to change Prop 47, to get rid of Prop 47, where you had misdemeanor laws. And the laws were... they weren't punishable, that they weren't using it well. Okay. Yeah. And so people were having their houses broken into, and then small stores and small shops, they were getting broken into by grab and smash, and homeless issues, and having your house broken into, your car broken into, a lot of crime.
It's almost made it appear that shoplifting in California is completely legal, is what it makes it appear like.
I mean, especially like in San Francisco. San Francisco, I consider my second hometown. And people would go into Rite Aid, CVS, whatever, and steal bags of stuff, and then go out on Market Street and just put it on the sidewalk and sell it in the black market. And nobody was doing anything. And that's what was really getting people ticked off. It was bad enough you got violated, but it was another thing that nobody was being punished. So 36 took off. And that's where I saw so many different people. And I thought, this is really what MAGA is. It's just a group of people who are going to always disagree on a lot of things. But when there's that one subject matter, they're going to agree on this. And then they could fight against each other another day. But that to me is really the heartbeat of the MAGA movement. Could be anybody, because we have a lot of Democrats that show up to Republican meetings, and they will never wear a MAGA hat. I never wear a MAGA hat, but that's what seems to be the heartbeat of this.
Yeah. What one subject matter is that everyone agrees on?
Not everyone, but a majority of them.
Okay, majority then. What subject are we referring to?
Well, yes, like Prop 36. Okay, now you may see
crime, or crime in general, or
crime in general, but it was also the prosecution of criminals. What do we do with them? It's one thing to arrest them, but now what? And that was, people wanted to see justice on their side, not on the criminal side. No, we don't care about how they were raised. No, we don't care about they have a drug problem. No, we don't give a damn whether they have mental health problems. No, they stole stuff from my house. They broke into my house. They did this. They did that. I want justice done on my side. When is the law going to be on my side? That was the gist of it.
Well, and since you mentioned 36, let me just bring this up as well. To add insult to injury and maybe make people even more MAGA than they may already be starting to trend that way. The voters unanimously, well, not unanimously, but I mean, it was in big numbers. They passed 36. 70%. Yeah.
70%.
And then what does Newsom do? He says, well, sorry, fellas, I'm just not going to fund it.
Right.
So, to stop the shoplifting, to stop all this rampant crime, and he's just not
say no. He pulled a Nancy Reagan number. Just say no. Okay, just don't do it. Don't do it. Well, that didn't work. And crime does not know or care about what political side you're on, or what ethnic side you are, or what gender you are. Criminal is a criminal. I know. I've hung around them long enough, and especially when I was younger. But the thing about it is that people do bad things, and okay, fine, but they have to be punished. It's the punishment and it's the justice. That's what people were looking for. And now you may see it in this proposition no on 50. The same crowd of supporters that were in 36 are now supporting this also. I don't know if it's going to be the big numbers that it was on 36. But
and just to clarify, when you say on the 50, we're talking no on 50, not 450, right? No on 50.
No on 50. And
people who, or most of the same people who wanted Prop 36, which is to stop all the shoplifting and some of the other crazy stuff California is doing as well.
Yeah, and you said it right. It was the crazy stuff. People, the average person, just felt like their government was not working for them. Nobody was hearing them. They're not listening to me. What's it going to take? And it happened. And that was, to me, the most fascinating thing about it, because I gathered signatures for 36 and I campaigned for 36. And it doesn't really matter who door I knocked on, or who I called, or who I ran into, anything like that. It seemed like everybody was a victim of crime, no matter how big or how small. And that, okay, fine. But it was nobody's taking care of this. This guy is still out. This person is still out. And I'm out of this and that. And when am I going to have justice for me? So this is to me, 36 was almost like a turning point, like Prop 13, where people just got fed up and said, no, we have the power. The people have the power to make it happen, to change things. And now they're changing it. You saw the recall in San Francisco several times. I mean, they've had more recalls over there. They've had more recalls over there than Venezuela or, Argentina. It's just, people are just fed up. They want to be heard. They want to see something from their representatives.
And we are going to talk about this story a little bit more later in the show, probably.
Sure.
But yeah, this is exactly what you're talking about. Action that's happening in Sacramento, or San Francisco rather. Some of these extreme left. I like to coin them Blutopian hellholes.
Yeah. I mean,
This is what they seem to be becoming.
again, I saw San Francisco is my adopted hometown. I went to high school in the Bay Area, Woodside High School, and this person, this Joel Igordano, okay, the people stood up. They took matters in their own hands. This is the way it's supposed to be. Thank God for Hiram Johnson.
You know what? Since we're into this story now, let me bring up the video before we have to cut from the show, so we can talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the rest of the interview with you. But I since we're into this now, let's bring up the video so people know what it is we're talking about here on this recall. So I believe this is our second item here. So this will give everybody a little bit of background.
Right. So incredibly nice in San Francisco today. It was the perfect day to walk by the beach. And some people did, right along Upper Great Highway, now closed to traffic and soon to become officially a park. Voters approved that last fall, with 54% of people in the city saying yes to closing down the highway. But a lot of people who live on the west side of San Francisco specifically were never sold on that idea. In fact, some people were flat out against it. But there have been protests against the proposition that closed Upper Great Highway for good, with West Side residents voting overwhelmingly against it, even pushing to recall their supervisor over the issue.
There could have been a compromise had there been more input from the community that lives around here. And I think that really never occurred.
So ultimately, the citizens of this part of the city that the park was put in, they didn't feel like their district supervisor was listening to them. And the only recourse they had then was to recall him. And so let's find out what happened at the polls.
Residents on the west side of San Francisco, they've spoken, and in a 65 to 35% vote, they overwhelmingly decided to remove District 4 Supervisor Joel Engardio. Mayor Daniel Lurie is expected to appoint his replacement once the votes are certified. The closure of the Great Highway and a plan to add more housing is what ultimately drove people to the polls.
Recall was driven by a controversial decision, Engardio's support for Prop K, which closed a stretch of the Great Highway to create what is now Sunset Dunes Park. Citywide, the measure passed with slim approval, but here in the Sunset, voters rejected it by a wide margin, citing negative traffic and safety impacts to the residential neighborhood. To many, the new park symbolized a supervisor out of step with his community.
Betrayal, straight up. We elected that man into office to represent us, to look out for our interests. It doesn't matter whether you were for Prop K or against Prop K. We had no voice.
So I really like this story just because, and I'm glad you wanted to talk about this one on the show, Alexander, because it really shows that people do have power to do something.
We never lost it.
Exactly. Yeah,
we never lost it. What we've done is we've handed it over, or we've become lazy, or just uninterested. But I know the Sunset District. It's a very beautiful district. And those people there, the people that live there, they're very active. And like this gentleman said, they're pissed. And because they couldn't get their supervisor to listen to them or the mayor. So they took matters in their own hands. And again, thank God for Hiram Johnson, who came up with the recall in the state constitution. It gives us the power. And we need to use that, because it really does set up what I always say, and what you say in your show once in a while, the Thomas Jefferson quote. When the people are afraid of their government, it's called tyranny. But when the government's afraid of the people, it's called liberty. And we got to get our liberty back, just like this bravery thing that Ben Carson just talked about.
Yeah.
It's called You Gotta Have a Pair.
Well, you've been doing this radio show for 20 years. And I mean, this is a case of local activism and making a difference. I mean, have you seen lots of cases of this, or is this sort of like a rare win for?
No. This is not a rare win. This is a very good example of what's happening in California. The more recalls you see, the more it's going to catch on. And it happened here in Sacramento. There was a young lady named Katie Venezuela who was taking on Steve Hansen. Okay. And I knew Steve Hansen, and he turned out to be a jerk. Okay. I hated him after 4 years. And a lot of the people in the gay community hated him because he became arrogant. He didn't want to listen to anybody. So when Katie came in, I was the first one to give her any kind of airtime whatsoever. Nobody would touch her. Nobody knew who the hell she was. She came out of nowhere. But people were so ticked off about Steve Hansen, they said anybody but Hansen. That was the whole campaign of Katie Venezuela. And she won Land Park. She won Midtown. And then she gets elected. And guess what happens? She starts ignoring the constituents. Next thing you know, I'm campaigning for Phil Pluckenbaum. And Katie, who I still consider a friend, we went at it. I go, hey, welcome to politics. There's nothing sacred about this. There's no religious god of politics here. This is where the people still have the power and you ignore them. And to me, that should be taught. What happened to Katie should be taught in civics classes all around Sacramento County, because people have to be educated and people were inspired. Now, what is Katie doing now? I have no idea. I still consider her a friend, but we haven't talked since that happened. Yeah. But tough. That's the way it goes. Politics is a tough business. Campaigning is a tough business. And it's not so much about democracy. This is about the difference between democracy and representative government. Democracy is the process, how we got Katie in and got Steve out. But it was the representative that we got rid of.
Well, as a libertarian too, I mean, I like to look at a story like this one in San Francisco where there was a street, which you would assume, okay, that's kind of a government thing. I mean, it's pretty hard to get that situation of, private roads everywhere. Right. But one of the more challenging things, I guess. But even there, the street just sort of disappears and changes everything about your property because somebody in government just decides, we decided to turn the street into a park today.
Yes. And this is not your ordinary street. This is actually a highway, 2-lane.
Yeah.
And is right butted against the ocean. It's a beautiful strip of road. I think it's the most beautiful strips of road anywhere in California. But it was the neighbors that didn't like this.
Well, and it's a beautiful strip of road, but it's also time. If you're listening to us on public access, that's about all the time we have for you. But we will carry the rest of this conversation online. So go check us out there at knuckleheadsofliberty.com if you want to catch the rest of the story. And we're going to talk about a little more about this. We're going to talk about the government lockdown and speeding cameras in San Francisco. That's a big thing today. And Katie Porter, too. So go check it out. Back to you, Alexander. Did you have any more particular thought? Did I cut you off of?
No. It's just that I'm glad you brought up this Ben Carson quote, because it really does take bravery. It really does, and it takes courage. And land of the free, yeah. You have the freedom of protest. You have the freedom of recall. You get organized and people see that. It's very infectious, and it's very motivating. And if you look at some of the people in these recalls, you see different groups of ethnic groups, men and women, young people, old people, and they're exercising their God-given rights to have the community they want. And they did it. That should scare the hell out of everybody. And I hope it does. And I hope it motivates the hell out of everybody, because we need it.
And as you said, when they're scared, we have liberties. Or at least we're a little closer to liberty anyway.
Yes. Lady Liberty never looks so good. Okay. and I really want to stress that. And that's what I love about the Libertarian Party, is because liberty is such, to me, a sacred word that, but we have to exercise it. We can't be afraid. We got to have bravery. We can't allow politicians to dictate to us that much when we disagree with something. And now you're going to see it with 50, Prop 50.
And by the way, too, for those, we've talked about Prop 50 a few times. I just want to make everybody aware that is about a redistricting ballot here in California. And it is we talked about this a few weeks back on the show, but it is in response to Texas deciding that they're going to redistrict before these midterm elections, which could probably make a few more Republican House members. But California decided, hey, two can play at that game, but the problem is that we literally had a law to keep that from happening here.
Yes, and it's like, who took it away? Yeah. Who in the hell took it away? It was Gavin. Okay,
to the tune of $300 million, roughly, too, of taxpayer money to put that on the ballot. And
let's just call this what it is. This is a pissing match between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. All right. This has nothing to do with democracy. Nothing. All right. And if you look at Texas's redistricting, it's like white districts going into minority districts and taking over their districts and trying to win. And you know what? Even redistricting, that's not a guarantee you're going to win. Not at all. You get the percentages on your side, but it's not a guarantee. Here in California, it's like minority districts going into white districts. And that's where Gavin is trying to do everything he can to make himself look like I'm for the people and I'm this and that. But it is, to me, we need to say no on 50 and to hell no to Gavin. Say, you're not going to use us. You're playing us. And that's one thing I say on my show all the time. Do not be played. Do your homework. Get involved. Do something.
Yeah, there's a question because you bring up you made that comment. It's about saying hell no to Gavin, and you talk about how you've been involved in some of the California and the local Republican politics. From what you've seen there, is it more about how much they love Donald Trump nowadays within the MAGA movement, or is it more about the hell no to Gavin Newsom and the Democrat crowd? Is that what's your vibe there?
Donald Trump could not care less about the state of California. Okay, if he had his way, he would probably put a wall around California. So we just keep everybody in California, not infest the rest of the United States. Okay, or just let it fall into the Pacific Ocean, whatever. This is more about Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's our problem. Gavin Newsom is your problem, Jason. Gavin Newsom is Tim's problem or whatever. But the thing about it is that we in the MAGA movement and the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and others, we put this aside 10 years ago. That was when you saw bravery. You saw people ticked off, pissed off. We're not going to let the politicians do the districting anymore. We want a committee, whatever it is. And yeah, they could be corrupt or anything, but at least it's a committee. It's not them. It's not the people at the Capitol. And now he took that away. And you look at the state of California. No, this is our problem. I remember when I was involved with the recall to recall Gavin Newsom, I used to get so ticked off at when we had rallies at the Capitol. And I knew Orrin Heady. He's a good friend of mine. He was the one that came up with the recall. He was handling it. And I said, Orrin, whatever you do, tell all these idiots not to flag their Trump flags. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about the state of California. This is about us living here. Donald Trump has nothing to do with this. I don't want Donald Trump past the Nevada border as this happens.
Well, and there's something to what you're saying there too, because like you're saying, I mean, there's a lot of people flying Trump flags, but it seems to be much more in saying screw you to the Democrat Party, because when you talk about, hey, you're a little bit nervous about Trump being down here. Well, look at what just happened with Canada. They had a conservative movement that
Right.
looked like they were going to win. They looked like they were just steamrolling to a victory. And then suddenly Trump came in and said, well, we're going to turn Canada into a state. And he completely derailed the conservative movement in Canada.
I've told everybody, look at, we don't need Canada to be. Why in the hell would we want Canada anyway? You know, so they make good bacon, big deal. You know, they got a good hockey team. You know, whatever. All right, but they already had Trudeau. He screwed it up themselves. We don't need to pick up his. We don't have to clean up his mess. We got our own mess, and this is why I say with Republicans and especially the conservative movement that this issue right now, this November 4th that's coming up, this is about us. This is about Gavin Newsom. And there's going to be other people, I hope a lot from the Libertarian Party, who also participate in this and get the vote out to say, no, we are going to make our vote hurt. That's what I say a lot on my show. Make your vote hurt. Use your middle finger to Gavin Newsom, because he just gave it to us. He should have never touched this. And when you consider that the state of the California flag, the red star up there, that is in honor of the state of Texas during the Bear Flag Revolt, because we were in wars with Mexico just like Texas was in California. But that was an honor.
If you hadn't told me that, I would assume it's some kind of a homage to the communists in China. I wouldn't have known unless you told me that.
It was always called the Lone Star State. Okay.
Oh.
And so after the Bear Flag Revolt, and we became our own state, we put the red star, and that was to say thank you to the state of Texas for supporting us, and vice versa, whatever. And so this is definitely a political move on Gavin's part, because he knows damn well that when he leaves office, he still has a budget to do, remember that. But when he leaves office and he goes to the convention, that he'll be out of office for a while, and he's going to realize, guess what? At the National Democratic Convention, they're going to say, we don't need any more white boys from California, because California for years, and I know this for a fact, 'cause I had friends in the Democratic State Party, they said he was groomed from a little kid to be mayor, to be lieutenant governor and governor. And this is why the Democrats have always had this grudge, where the only two presidents that ever were from California were Republicans, and they always wanted one of theirs, and it never happened. And this was their guy. The great white hope was Gavin Newsom, and guess what? He's not the great white hope anymore. He's a great white dope, and it's going to show. And that's why we have this mess. Yeah. You know, it's almost like we're being run by Caligula here. You know, he's not giving a damn about what's going on. He just he has power. He has so much. He is so addicted to power. It's like heroin.
Well, you know, the crazy thing is that the budget has, I believe, it's increased by over 50%, I think, since he's been governor. And right. Yet the problems have all expanded too. It's not like, you know, hey, the budget increased and therefore the problems got solved. No, the problems have expanded like tenfold. I mean, he had a 10-year plan 20 years ago to end homelessness in San Francisco, and it's just it's blown up across the state since then.
We have like one of the lowest poverty rates in the country, and I think California. I know California. A lot of Californians, and Democrats are never going to admit this because they have a lot of political pride. Everybody does, and we use it to our own damage. And we're sick and tired of this Ken and Barbie show. All right, with Gavin Newsom and his wife parading all over state of California. We're against this. We're against that. You know, our schools are falling apart. Infrastructure, our water is still an issue here, and crime is an issue. it just goes on and on. And so how does he sell this? By just being loud. But when he gets to that convention, I guarantee you, is going to be more people of color, more people of different genders, is going to be people of different backgrounds, but they're all going to have this victimization stuff. Okay, it's never, whatever you're going to get out of that is not going to be positive. And Gavin Newsom is trying everything in the world to make him be the great white hope that he thinks he is, and he's not.
Well, one of the things, I think this is a good segue into one of the stories we were going to talk about, and that's the speeding cameras in San Francisco. So even though, he's taking, he's sending us down a hole at a high speed rail speed, I guess you'd say, about the speed of that train into nowhere. But somehow, though, the one thing we do have is speeding cameras happening at a very fast click. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that story, and we have a little bit of a video segment to introduce it. So let me bring that up and we can talk about that a little bit more too.
San Francisco is quick to brag. It's the first California city to implement this new pilot program. San Francisco's been really pushing to get this program up and running because it says that speeding is the leading cause of traffic injuries and deaths in the city. The cameras were first launched in March and they all went live in June. At first, those caught speeding only got a warning with a notice like this. But starting August 5th, the registered owners of vehicles clocked going more than 11 miles per hour over the limit will get a citation. Fines start at $50 and go as high as $500 if you're caught going 100 or higher.
So the individual tickets don't seem super high, but keep in mind they're catching a lot of drivers. I think the first month was 16,000 drivers, and so they estimated that to be over $1 million in revenue that came in.
SFMTA says you can get those fines waived through community service, and they also have low-income payment plans. And they say it won't add a point to your driving record. Plus, the city says since the cameras went up, speeding is down 30%. At Fulton, near Arguello, a traffic problem spot, they report speeding is down by 63%. Some residents say certain streets feel too slow now.
Well, certainly we want our streets to be safer, but there is a trade-off, and as the residents are noticing, hey, it seems like it's getting too slow. But, one of the issues that I think it's worth pointing out in this next segment I want to show is that this is really going to hit people who don't live there, because people who live there get used to the cameras and the rules, but anybody who comes through as a visitor isn't aware of the rules, and they'll be racking up those tickets.
Altogether, the city has 56 cameras set up in 33 different areas considered hotspots, and no spot is hotter than the one on Bryant Street between 2nd and 3rd. And why? Victoria says its close proximity to the freeway means more unfamiliar drivers.
We are seeing reductions in those areas as well.
One of the things that seems disturbing about a program like this is it seems like the only time the government gets efficient at doing anything, it's in collecting money from law-abiding tax-paying citizens. Think about all the things that California can't do right, yet somehow they can start a speeding camera program that catches over 16,000 drivers in one area, a few areas of San Francisco in 1 month for $1 million. But they can't seem to deal with crime, fires, just a whole litany of things.
Thank you. Now, it's a growing crisis affecting just about every neighborhood in Southern California. Homeless encampments multiplying across our area, and the debate over about what to do about them is escalating.
This is the moment more than 20 masked and hooded people stormed into Heller Jewelers in broad daylight Monday. Some of them armed with guns, others with crowbars. Police say the mob then helped themselves to $1 million worth of fine jewelry.
Almost 180,000 people have been ordered to leave their homes around Los Angeles as 5 fires continue to burn, 2 of them completely uncontained. This is what the flames are leaving behind.
Wow. So there you go. I mean, they can't seem to do anything to actually manage this except collect money.
All they do, and it's our money because they can't print it themselves. But it was funny when they showed that one street near the going up the freeway. That's one of the few streets in San Francisco where it's actually 4 lanes. All right. That's why they're speeding down the street, and they want to get the hell out of San Francisco because it's right near the freeway. They've seen enough. Okay, you guys
I didn't know you hauled, but I'm sure they probably have had their share of them going on.
Yeah. It's like the Giants suck, the Warriors suck, 49ers suck. They don't even play in San Francisco anymore. So I want to get the hell out of here. So I'm going as fast as I can. but that's one of the only few places in San Francisco where they have 4 lanes, and so everybody's like driving fast. The other thing with San Francisco is that most of the time it's so packed. I don't know where anybody's speeding, because you can't even make a left turn in San Francisco. You can only make a right, and so the traffic is so bad. I don't know how anybody could speed in San Francisco at all, unless it's 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. yeah. Try to
A
drive.
leftist town where you can't ever make a left turn. That's a good one.
That is so true. I mean, come on, you guys don't even believe in the leftism of this in San Francisco.
Well, Tim, it's because you can't go any farther left than they already are.
Yeah, and if you do go left, you get a ticket. You get a ticket.
Yeah.
They're still taking their money. And show me where there's this liberal utopia in the state of California. It was supposed to be San Francisco, and they've turned my adopted hometown into a landfill. And the one thing they took out of it more than anything else was the San Francisco spirit, where you loved going to North Beach. You loved going to the American Conservatory Theater. You loved going to Golden Gate Park and this, and the other thing. And there was a certain vibe there. And I'm not talking about the 60s and everything like that. I'm talking about 70s, 80s, and 90s.
And now we have poop patrols under Gavin Newsom.
Yes. I mean, and I did a lot of construction, worked in a lot of construction over there. And they just had so many laws that some of my bosses would say, we're just going to build this. The hell with it. I can't wait for any more permits to be done. I can't get any permits. I can't do this. And it was the first time I've ever seen this, where in San Francisco, I've never seen professional dog walkers. I go, what the hell is this? Okay, these people are actually getting paid to walk somebody else's dog, not even their own. And they get paid big bucks. It is a market all into itself. And why does San Francisco have less kids and more animals? It's just a very convoluted, very depressed state of affairs, and it breaks my heart.
You know what's interesting about that? Because obviously, dog walkers seems to be a very first world type of job. I don't imagine there's too many third world countries where they're paying people to walk the dogs, and that brings up kind of what's going on here in California, because we've got some of the biggest wealth disparity in the country. I mean, we seem to have the highest poverty rates. Just came out of the I believe the census did a study recently, and they found that California is tied with Louisiana for the worst.
And we don't even have a Mardi Gras here.
Yeah. We didn't even get a party.
we can't even party around these people. They took over all the streets here.
Yeah.
Again, California, where is this liberal utopia? Is it up north? Is it Central Valley? Is it the Bay Area? Is it Los Angeles? Is it Bakersfield? Tell me where this place is. I want to see it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not happening. They sold their soul, and we bought into it. And people, this is why again, thank you, Jason, for that Ben Carson quote. Now you see why people are getting mad. It's finally happening. And maybe like California, we're like a bunch of alcoholics. We have to go through AA. We have to hit the bottom first before we go up. I never liked that philosophy at all. No, we got to tackle this now. We got to hit it now. And it's going to take a lot of courage, because we're not going to get our freedom back. We're not going to have liberty back if we allow these jerks to just rule over us. And we're just going to take it.
It's weird because you say we sold our soul. I mean, I feel like it's these Democrat leaders sold our soul. I mean, obviously we have some responsibility in electing them, but but these guys are all the people who would be paying to have somebody walk their dog for them.
Yeah,
and the rest of us are the ones who are, struggling to avoid living in a tent on the street out here, right? The highest homelessness rates in the country here in California. So, I shouldn't say that. It's at the highest of any state. I guess the District of Columbia is a little bit worse.
Yeah, but the idea is that I have to go back to we have to stop being played by them. That's all there is to it. We have to stop being played. They are nothing special. There's not one special person there in the Capitol, Democrat or Republican, as far as I'm concerned. And they work for us. But you would never know it because they're not afraid of us. They don't care. But local races, like what you're seeing in San Francisco, what happened to Katie, what's happening with Prop 36, and you saw that piece you saw with all those people breaking into that jewelry store.
Mm.
All you had to do is show that several times, and guess what? People can relate to that. No, I don't own a jewelry store, but they ramshacked my house. They ramshacked my.
Not only that, but people will say, "Why can't I go to a jewelry store anymore?" People are definitely saying that already about Walgreens. We have a jewelry store in Sacramento. Was on our K Street Mall, so it's right downtown in the heart of everything. Right. And I believe it was Sharif's Jewelers, and they've been there forever. And then during the George Floyd riots, they destroyed that store. They looted everything. That store has been empty ever since. It's just been an empty, vacant storefront, lights on, but nothing in there. And that's almost the entire K Street. It's just all of these facade of shops with just pieces of art in the window, but no business going on, right? And that's it. And, that's the way sort of Democrats paper over the problem here.
Yes, and remember, during Katie Venezuela's term, there was a mass shooting there on K Street Mall, and several people got killed right in front of Sharice's store. And I see that. I'm going to see more of it this Saturday because Access Sacramento is having their film festival, a place called Sacramento, this Saturday, and I'm usually the bouncer up in front. I just kind of guide people. But I hear it from so many people. Why is it so filthy down here? Why is it so it's a mess. It's awful. It stinks. There's people lying in the streets. There's no cops. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's taking care of anything. Nobody's looking after us. So how does a city try to get revenue when people are only there to see their kid or their relative or their friend's movie on stage? They'll put up with that, but then they're gone.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yep. Just to give you a little anecdote, I work in a place that's in the downtown area, or at least I used to, really close to that. And in the job I do, we had an economist come in that we were consulting with, and he was coming from the East Coast from a think tank out there. And the first thing he said when he got to my office after driving down J Street the first time, he said, close. He said, "What happened to your city?" That was the first thing he said. And we sit here and we just live our lives and we see it decay little by little over time, and we don't notice that. But to an economist, they're just looking, hey, this isn't right. There's the efficiency's just gone.
Right.
Storefronts everywhere.
Well, I'm a native Sacramentan, born and raised in downtown Sacramento on the corner of 27th and E, still there. Not too far from the old Pine Cove bar. I was raised and winged from that bar. And it was a nice neighborhood. It was a neighborhood of different minorities, different migrants, because of the canneries that were there at the time. And so it was a very blue-collar neighborhood. But I've seen the decline. And this is not the Sacramento I loved and grew up in. Now, I don't want to sound like, okay, well, you're an old fart too, and time progresses, time progresses and things change. And I understand that part.
No, you don't think all of the homeless people in the park is progress?
Yeah.
The downtown smelling like piss and trying to avoid
no kidding. Yeah, but you know what? I say I wish I was back to Mayberry. All right, I wish it was back like that, but it's not going to come back. But that doesn't mean we have to lose our class. That doesn't mean we have to lose our respect. That doesn't mean we have to have common decency. All right. No, I don't want to be brothers and sisters with everybody. I don't even like my own. All right. So I have enough problem with them. I don't need any more. But having courtesy, some respect, and we've also lost our sense of humor. We've lost a lot of that. And people can't take a joke nowadays. I've been protested because of what I said in this station. And it's like, screw you. Don't listen to it. But the idea is that we have to get back in a way to where we just have some open dialogue, some respect, some courtesy, and get back to a place where you can respect other people's business. You don't have to get into theirs. Just respect it. And you don't like it, walk away. Okay. If you don't agree with them, okay, fine. If you want to have a discussion, go ahead. But even on my show, I used to have people who called in and said, I don't like what you said. It was offensive. I said, well, why don't you come on my show and we'll talk about it? Well, they never showed up. So you're going to have that. But Sacramento has lost a lot of potential. And now Sacramento is competing with Roseville, El Dorado, West Sacramento, Elk Grove, Rancho Cordova, and they're bringing in businesses. Their streets are pretty damn clean. They have better schools. And how come we don't have that here? How come? It's like Carson said, there's no courage here. You're not free. You're not the home of the brave. You're the home of the slave now. And they've got you. This plantation mentality that a lot of minorities have, especially in low-income minorities. And I know this because I was born in it, and I had friends in it. And I go, no, you have rights too. Just because it's low income doesn't mean you have to have trash out there. Clean it yourself. Show the rest of them that you have enough pride in yourself and in your property. Go shoot the pit bull, get it out of the front yard. Okay. Go get rid of these abandoned cars. Go clean up your yard. I said, have you ever heard of Home Depot? Go there and buy some gardening tools and some tools and fix up your house. Take ownership. That ownership will give you some pride. That ownership will give you some honor. And that ownership will also give you that bravery to go to politicians and your representatives and everything and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing my part. How come you're not helping me? It sets a fire. There's something about it. That's why I love that word liberty. You got to earn it, but you got to show it first. That's why I like the name the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck with MAGA right now.
Well, you'd be jumping from 40% to less than 1%.
Yeah, but but it's so funny because a lot of my Democratic friends saying, "Oh, I just go decline the state. I want to go become a Republican or a Libertarian or Peace and Freedom Party or whatever." I said, no, don't do that. Don't run away from your party. If you're going to change it, it's got to change from within. Okay. You have to be the change because they're going to listen to you.
You see this with Rand Paul and Thomas Massey out there. I mean, to me, those are two very liberty-oriented Republicans. And, who, if there was a solid Libertarian Party, they might actually just up and join the Libertarian Party, but it's just a hard go if you don't get your gang tattoos on in politics.
Well, I like to encourage the Libertarian Party of having more people just run for office. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But you know what? Get your message out there. Get the people out there. Let people see you and throw your ideas out there and raise money because hell, nobody wants to become a Republican in California. I mean, we don't have, our numbers have declined so bad it's unbelievable. But
not to mention a lot of people are just leaving the state in U-Hauls.
Yes, but you also have the factor of Democrats saying, well, what I say to them, this is what Democratic politics look like. This is what your streets look like because of the Democratic policies and everything like that. This is why your taxes are high. This is why regulation is high. This is why crime is high. This is why your kids are stupid. Your kid is more stupid going into leaving school than they went in. All right. Tell me how the hell that works. But you can change that, but it has to change within the party. And I know that this is why Gavin Newsom is doing what he's doing. He sees, oh man, my record is not good. I cannot sell this state at all. And the culture, the energy, the spirit of California, it's gone right now. We're a gutter state. And I don't want it to be a gutter state. In fact, I tell all my friends, especially in the Republican Party, who think, why are you hanging out with libertarians? Why are you hanging out with Democrats? Why are you doing? I said, because I'm a Sacramentan first. MAGA comes later. I'll fight the MAGA arguments later. But right now, I care about my neighborhood. I care about downtown. Hey, you want to see something really cool? If you have a chance, Tim, Jason, there was a young man, he did a mural on the corner of 16th and I Street, kitty corner from the Memorial Auditorium. And in this mural, you can't miss it, is on a parking lot. It has Ronald Reagan, Jerry Brown, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they all have tattoos, okay? And Reagan has Nancy tattooed on his neck. And then on his forearm, it says, trust but verify. And then Jerry Brown says, his arm says Moonbeam. Okay. and then Schwarzenegger is like Terminator something, or I want to pump you up. It's made up. It's supposed to be funny. This is where we lost our sense of humor. I've heard from the owners, they've got nothing but complaints and threats about that mural. How come? Why? It is a mother effing mural. It's beautiful. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to make you think. When do we stop thinking? When do we start losing our sense of humor? And
and that's the thing. I mean, there's murals all over town, and a lot of them have potentially socialist messages on them, or maybe social justice messages. No complaints about those.
No.
In the wrong. That does bring me. I did want to segue this into our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. I'd hope we'd have a chance to talk about the lockdown up there or shutdown update, but it looks like we're kind of going long, and I don't want to keep you in studio.
Oh, it's all right.
Way past your bedtime.
It is.
But I think this story really shows a little bit about kind of this intolerance you're talking about in this Knucklehead Noise Patrol, because Katie Porter, somebody who may very well become ex-governor of California, was in an interview just about a day or so ago, and she was asked a question about essentially appealing to the Trump supporters here in California, and she could not answer the question. In fact, this may be a fatal flaw for her campaign, as we're going to see. So let me show the video here, and we can discuss it a little bit.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%? Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're
saying.
In
a general election? Yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
The CBS reporter Julie Watts is trying to interview potential gubernatorial candidate in California, Katie Porter. And it's already, you can see that it's a little bit testy because she's not quite answering the question that the reporter wants her to answer. I'm going to speed it up as she filibusters here because otherwise it's just going to take too long.
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
And after all that, Julie winds up having to re-ask the question.
You just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
And she's still not answering the question. Julie keeps persisting.
Well, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
So now is where it really starts to go off the rails.
To those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters?
Apparently, Ms. Porter has never had a tough interview. Maybe that's because she's so used to having reporters who are friendly to Democrats interviewing her. Let's hear how Julie soldiers on.
Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about.
Baby.
Pretty embarrassing.
Oh man, I would hate to take her on a date, and she's still sober. She was on. They've been using this on talk radio all over the place today, and all I can come up with is that apparently she's been married, she's been divorced, and she's had staffers and all those others and other things and guys, whatever. And they don't say anything nice about her. So to get underneath her skin to where she has a breakdown, okay, and it's not even that time of the month again, she is going to die before the primaries even start because they just, she's wound up too tight. And I think you also see a person who's very desperate to win, to be the first woman in California to win. And she'll lose it. You know, there's more to come, you know.
After that interview, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you may see her when Angie's List doesn't give her any money. You know, it's over with. Okay, it's because the Democratic power breakers, power movers, and everything like that. They're going to see this and say, "We're not going to give her a dime unless she could control herself and use some poise and be cool and not lose her cool. We're not going to have a winner here." So she set a really bad tone now because this story is going to go for about another 3 weeks. It's not going to end right away. Believe me, Republicans, if they're smart, and they're not, they will bang on this. They should be banging on this all for the next couple of weeks.
Tim, did you have any thoughts on this? I did have a response for Alexander, but I didn't want to hit it.
Yeah, you mean the lady? No.
Yeah, like I said, this is not a kind of woman you want to take out on an expensive date at all.
How about a cheap date?
Not even a cheap one. I mean,
not even a cheap date.
Then she would have to be easy. Okay, then then she would have to be easy, and I don't think that happens either. But some smart political consultant is going to look at her divorce papers and look at the divorce manuscripts and all this other stuff, and it's going to be over with, baby. I mean, it's going to be over with. And I don't even think some of the women's group are going to. There'll be some hardcore women groups. What they call it, Democratic Dems or something like that. I don't know. And that they will probably support her just because she's a woman, but she was interviewed by a woman. I think this would have been a lot different.
A strong woman too, by the way.
Yeah. Strong. Yeah, she's strong. All right. Yeah. But because it was with another woman, she can't play the victim on this. If it was a guy interviewing her, she could go off the rails and money would be bouncing coming, out of the coffers like crazy. But because of this, you watch her numbers go down as far as money is concerned.
So the sense I get from you is the Democrats will want a divorce from her after this.
I would. I mean, where's F. Lee Bailey when you need him?
Well, but to me, the more, and this is one of the reasons why I chose this too for the show, but is because having somebody like yourself here who's representing, who fits in with this 40% that Katie Porter rather. Was asked a question about, right. And she wouldn't answer it, right? And I mean, this is kind of like Hillary Clinton with the basket of deplorables, right? I mean, I can't imagine somebody just saying that they're not going to answer a question about 40% of the state that they're going to represent, right? That they're seeking to represent, and she is evading, just steadfastly saying, "Hey, I don't need them." Right. Which is just nuts, right?
And when you hear most Democrats, they always say, when elected, I am going to be president, governor, whatever the hell it is, for everybody. She could have said something stupid like that and still gotten away with it. But she didn't, because she blew her cool. I mean, she's not mature enough, I think, to win this. And remember, the Democratic Party, especially Adam Schiff, he did a Nancy Kerrigan number on her, Tanya Harding number on her, because he knocked her off on her knees. And that was from somebody from within. This is where I'm thinking that in California Democratic politics, you're going to see more donkey eat donkey than ever before, because they've gotten too big. They got too sloppy.
Maybe they'll finally get a sour taste in their mouth too. Then
yeah, the rest of us. And now you know what it feels like, sucker. And so now they're going to pay the price. Again, I say get involved. The MAGA movement is alive and well. It's not going to go away, because it's a philosophy. Now it's a part of life. But with me, it is. But also, I put your community first. Whatever, I don't care where the hell you live. Put your community first. Put your representative. Take them to the cleaners if you have to, but make your vote hurt. Don't be played, and also go out there and enjoy life, because we only have so much of a shelf life here, and sometimes if you get too wrapped up in government and politics, it just eats you away.
Well, I think that's probably a pretty good note to end on, and I'm going to bring up your radio show page.
I can't believe it. This is the first time I've seen
it. Well, it's a good-looking page, and we've had a great conversation. So I'm hoping people will go to your site, and it's Capital City Radio with Alexander Vasquez. So you got to type in that, because I think there's another Capital City Radio.
And I used to
Alexander Vasquez, people.
Yes, I used to get in trouble from Cap Radio, because they didn't like the idea of me having Capital City Radio, because they thought it was people were calling in and saying, "Hey, there's another guy out there on Capital Public Radio," and they go, "No, he is not a part of us at all." Okay. And people would say, "Oh, you're with Capital Public Radio. You must be so nice and sweet and smart and intelligent." I said, "I'm not." Okay. So I've had fun with it, and I'm going to keep it. It irritates people.
Yeah. Well, do you have any final thought you'd like to share with the audience on the way out? No?
I am at your service anytime you want to talk. I'd be more than happy to come because I love you guys. You guys are terrific. I had a great time at the Libertarian desk over there at the State Fair. You guys got to do more of that. I'll be there if you want. Besides, James kind of pressures me to doing it because he says if you don't show up, I'm not going to air your show. So
we're all about force, us libertarians.
We all have to do something. And James is a tyrant. He wants to win. And so anyway, I had a great time. And again, thank you. And I enjoyed it. It's been an honor. And let's do it again.
Awesome. That sounds like a plan.
Definitely.
Well, until next time, if you're out there watching us before the next show, think about what you can do in your community. Maybe go listen to Alexander's show and you'll get some ideas from there too.
Yes.
Some of the people and ways you can get involved. Maybe in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need some people moving the ball for liberty in California, I tell you.
Liberty is what it's all about to me. I love liberty. So
yeah.
Anything we can do, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.